My advice is very different than all the gurus. I actually stay in your W-2 job so that you can reinvest. Keep reinvesting your passive income till you got so much money you don't know what to do with. Not having to live off of the cash flow, being able to reinvest it is powerful.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller.
On today's show, we're so pleased to have Trevor Thompson with us. Trevor, welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Trevor. Well, thank you again for being on the Road Less Traveled Show. To start with, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background? What line of work you initially started in?
I have the world's strangest background. So I even did a video, Am I the Most Interesting Man in the World? So I'm originally from Niagara Falls, Canada, started working for Ripley's, believe it or not, at age 13, worked for them all through high school. Then I went to Guinness World of Records, worked for them for 18 years, managed the rights in North America, which included running one in the Empire State Building in New York City, going to their main location in London, opened a franchise on Hollywood Boulevard in Los Angeles. Then I wanted to open my own Guinness in Orlando, Florida. But oddly enough, Ripley's bought the rights to it, which is kind of funny, the two companies I'd worked for, so I couldn't get it. So oddly enough, I opened a year-round haunted house of all things, was not that successful, but I got recruited by a company called iFLY Indoor Skydiving. And then I spent 20 years. So I started with that company. It was losing money. And we built it up to 80 locations. I opened 46 of the 80 locations. We sold it out to a private equity firm. And it was just it was a wild ride for sure.
Wow.
So not too many people have that. And there's lots of little tidbits in there. So when I was with Guinness World of Records, we gave Michael Jackson a Lifetime Achievement Award. So I actually had lunch with him. And Norris McWhirter, the founder of Guinness Book of Records. It was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, that is definitely a unique background.
Yeah,
I don't think we haven't had one of those on the show yet.
Yeah, with iFLY Indoor Skydiving, we actually, when Iron Man came out, Robert Downey Jr. came and flew in our Los Angeles location. Super nice guy. And then even more interesting, on his second movie, a bunch of folks that worked for me did all the skydiving stunts.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've had a very, very strange and unique background, but it was a wild ride. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, very cool. Excellent. Well, what have you transitioned into with Massive Capital?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to get in real estate, and I'll be honest, I was terrified of toilets, tenants, and trash. And even though reading the Purple Bible by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, totally piqued my interest. But I did what so many people did. I stayed on the hamster wheel, the Monopoly board, going around collecting pay, doing all those things, watching other people get rich with my efforts. And then we finally got bought out by a private equity company. So I had the no money excuse went away because I got a payday. So I said, that's it. I'm going to figure out real estate investing. I don't know what it is yet. And then I started studying, and I found the model of syndication. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly like everything else I've done, right? You buy a business, because we bought a lot of franchises back, or I bought different businesses. You improve the operations. We called it EBITDA. Apartments call it NOI. You increase it, you sell it for a multiple. And it was like kapow. Just totally like blew my mind that actually existed. And that I could actually own something that I drove by and thought only millionaires and billionaires owned. I could own a piece of it. And I became obsessed with it. It was just so fascinating. And so I actually have done 20 passive investments in 5 years. 8 of those have gone full cycle. And then I started to switch to active. I was thinking about leaving my job, and then COVID made the decision for me. So iFLY went from development to survival, and they got rid of about 80% of the team, and especially anybody in the development side, which was me. So that made the decision for me that I'm going to do real estate full-time now. And on the full-time means that you're working with a team, finding the deals, and then you're finding the passive investors that I was before to invest in the deals. So since then, I've been on a general partner now in 9 syndications in the last 18 months. So it's been a pretty meteoric, I've grown quickly. And most of that came with joining Massive Capital this year. So awesome. 6 of the 9 deals are with Massive Capital.
Very cool. Very cool.
What geographic areas do you focus in?
So we are doing Texas. We have 2 in Colorado, North Carolina, and Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah. So all pro landlord, pro business, high moving people to the state, right? So even though Colorado's it's this little weird little niche place that I learned a lot about when we did a deal there that, even though it's a very expensive market, like some of the other markets, its operational costs are much lower than in Texas and some of the other more traditional states.
Really?
Yeah. So just to give you an idea, I'm sure you know about roughly 50% of your money goes to operating. On our Colorado deals, 30% goes to operating. So when you get to keep 70 cents of every dollar, it makes a big difference on the deal. So, and I was not aware of that. Now part of it is we've been lucky. We have a strong local partner with a strong property management team, and we've been very efficient. But it's an interesting, so it helps offset the greater expense of that market.
Was it also the properties were newer versus older?
Actually, they're all older. They're 60s
really?
Product. Yeah, 60s, but
Wow.
well-maintained product.
Wow, that's fascinating. So
yeah, it is. It was super. I did not realize it till we were doing deals there, and it was good to know. But those are the states that we do business in. We've dabbled a bit in Arizona, but haven't closed on any deals, and Nevada. We just haven't got anything done. And, and obviously Texas is a very hot market, but all of the principals do live in Texas. So we are very Texas focused.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. Got it. So, Trevor, thinking back to maybe your Ripley's days or Guinness Book of World Records or even iFLY, is there a funny story you can share, something that happened to you along the way?
Yes. So let me just think of a funny story. So I think most of I would say more interesting stories. So the world's tallest lady actually used to work for me. Now I'm older and I think about it, it was a little bit freak showish. But she basically made appearances. And then during the off season, we did television shows where she would appear on television shows. So it was quite fascinating to travel to Japan. And, there she was the world's tallest woman. They had the world's shortest woman. They had the world's tallest man. They had the youngest person that had a baby. It was quite fascinating to be able to do those particular things. And then also some other things, I witnessed a guy eating worms, and I always say the joke, I counted them going in, but I didn't count them coming back out because after a while. So I don't know how funny that is. And then, of course, meeting cool people. So I mentioned Robert Downey Jr. earlier. In Hollywood, several stars came to fly in the tunnel. Posh Spice came with her kids, and when Beckham moved to LA to be on the soccer team, and Michael Jackson's kids actually came after his passing and flew in the tunnel. So got to meet a lot of very unique people for sure.
Very cool. So, I gotta ask, so how tall is the world's tallest woman?
She was 7'7¼ tall. And an interesting story, she really was hard to get moving around. So when she would walk, she would put one hand on my shoulder. So when I would come back, I would have this giant handprint bruise on my shoulder because, she was 460 pounds and put that weight on me to kind of balance herself out to be able to go places. Wow. And somewhat interesting, they sent a limo to get her, but she couldn't get in the back seat because it was too hard to get in because, the seat's way back. So I sat in the back by myself and she was in the front seat, kind of squished in there. It was, it was fascinating to be able to meet all these people. I met a guy who could swallow 13 swords. I actually drove my car onto a guy while he lied on a bed of nails. Pretty wild stuff. Not too many people get to say they did that in their lifetime.
No. I do have a few people I wouldn't mind driving a car over, but anyway, that's different conversation. So
yeah, and we smashed bricks on his chest too while he laid on the bed of nails. The first time I did it, it was very intimidating, but after you do it a few times, you get kind of callous. It's kind of strange how we didn't bother him though.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Trevor, we kind of touched on what the deciding factor was that got you into real estate was kind of the iFLY job going away during that period. But as you transitioned, what can you think of like one of your first victories when you got into the real estate that solidified the fact that this is the right path and it's achievable after all your study, and it kind of made it come home for you?
Yeah, so the fact that I knew I needed to do it, I knew enough kind of just to know, but I never pulled the trigger. So now for me, the rewarding one is meeting people in my position back then, meeting people that are on the hamster wheel of life, going around the Monopoly board, always paying, I loved Monopoly as a kid and I loved to buy the hotels, but somehow I never did it in my life, and got that thing going. And so now for me, the excitement is when somebody makes their first investment. And, you take them, I'm going to say you take them from a place of real fear. You make them feel comfortable with the process and everything that's happening. And then they make that first investment. It's exhilarating for them and me still. I've raised several $1 million and it's still exhilarating. The first time people are always exhilarating. Just to be able to start them on that path, right, to financial freedom. And, I spend a lot of my energy talking about, I didn't start till late in life. I was in my 50s, and how that was such a mistake that was. Because when you look at the power of compound in real estate, I always say if you invested $100,000, you wait 5 years, it becomes 2, you reinvest it 4, 8, 1.6, 3.2 million. So if I had invested 100,000 30 years ago, in theory, assuming there was no tax complications, everything doubled in 5 years, that's worth $3.2 million on one investment. Wow, why didn't I hear that when I was in my 20s and 30s, So it's my mission, and that's why I'm so excited to get on shows like yours and other people's. That's my mission for people, to get that light bulb. But even if it's $5,000, $25, $50, just start somewhere and then let that money grow and compound. And that's the real power of real estate. You add in all the tax benefits, all of the other things that happen with real estate investing, and it is the most powerful way to accelerate your money. And so for me, it's sharing that message, day in, day out. That's why anytime I can get on a show, anywhere, that's what I talk about, that you've got to take that first step. And then once you do, nobody ever says, man, I wish I'd have never invested in real estate. I've never heard it yet. I've heard people say, wow, my 401k, wow, the stock market, wow, this. And don't get me wrong, it's not always perfect. Okay, so we need to understand all investments have risks, but when you combine over the period of time, on all of my investments, I'm in 29 now, and 3 more will close before the end of this year. It's life altering.
Right. I think, like Albert Einstein said, compounding, the idea of compounding money over time is the 8th wonder of the world.
It is.
And that's the thing that, we talk about quite frequently. And that is that, look, do something. Yeah. Please do something, with take some extra money and set it aside, invest in something. We're taught, the traditional norm is to put it in the stock market, put it in your 401k, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point in time, there are other avenues, and you can often, personally, the stock market is up and down, it's a roller coaster, and over time, yes, the trend is upward to the right, but at some point in time, there are other things that people don't understand that they can actually get into without being a millionaire. You don't need to be a millionaire to invest in real estate.
And I'll be honest too, a big light bulb was when I understood I actually own a piece of that apartment complex. I own a piece of a real asset, which is completely different than owning a stock in a company. right? It's a completely different thing. So I am an owner of, almost 3,000 apartments now. No, I joke, I own a 3,000 doorknobs, probably, if you think of, probably more than that. But when you think about it, I never, ever would have thought that was possible. Never would have thought that was possible. And then you start to see how we can improve the community, improves people's lives living there. Yes, we're increasing rents. Yes, some people are displaced. I understand there are some downsides, but the upsides are so much greater. And especially now, the delta with the high interest rates, the delta between a mortgage payment and a rent payment has never been greater. It's never been greater. And housing it right now is just out of the reach of the average working person. And so therefore, providing quality apartments that are operated by quality people is huge.
That's well said. That's exactly.
And I also don't just invest in apartments. So I like to be diverse. So we talked about the states where we have investments. So we diversify by location, but we also do a little bit of diversification by asset class as well. So we've done some land entitlement. We're doing some new development. We're actually building a new retail here in Austin. So there's a lot of different things. So when you look at it, you don't want everything in the same kind of deal. The way I tell people to look at it is some deals may be just a single, right? I have a medical investment. It's only a 10% pref, but it's a double guaranteed triple net lease. It's going to pay that payment no matter what. Perfect for my IRA money, right? Consistent 10% return. Where are you going to get that? It's like clockwork. I mean, unless the world comes to an end, that sends me a check. And then there's the value add multifamily side. So that's when you're pushing the envelope a little bit, depending on what you're buying. And I call those either, triples, home runs, and every once in a while you get lucky and you get a grand slam and a deal goes really, really well. And I think, obviously the market's a little tough right now, but I think some people that are buying now, again, it's a new, fresh time to make money.
Right.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, the affordability. I thought I saw a recent, like the last couple of days, a stat that qualifying for the median price of the home now at close to 8% interest rates. It was like $117,000 income, which is not the average income in America.
No,
so
it definitely is not. And then you look at that, and the mortgage payment is like $3,200 on that, and in theory, maybe not comparable because it's a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, but that rent's probably $1,800, $3,200, or $2,200. Substantial difference, like thousands of dollars a month difference.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And, again, we've also talked about this before as well, that just with the housing supply of current inventory is not there because, anybody with a 2 or 3% mortgage is not letting go of that. So those houses are not coming on the market, which kind of reinforces the need to actually, more people to perhaps be in apartments. It's crazy. So Trevor, in your recent real estate days, is there a funny story that you can share? Something that happened to you?
Why? I should have been more prepared with funny stories. I think the funniest story is doing due diligence on one of our properties. And we went into this guy's apartment, and this guy was clearly a drug abuser. And he had ripped holes all through his walls. And we said, why? And he whispered in my ear, there's people that live in those walls. And so I was like, okay. And then what are all these knife marks? Well, I'm a professional knife thrower, but they stopped me from throwing the knife at the tree out in front of my apartment. So I had to throw it inside here. Again, thank goodness he was gone by the time we took over. But the fact that he was dead serious about everything. Like he truly believed there were people living there inside of his walls. And I think some of the other stories, we had a tenant that she had a really bad issue, right? And our team on the apartment complex, like really help them out. I mean, they even went to the hospital and brought some of the stuff from her apartment to her. And I remember being in the office, and I remember that person coming back with their mother. It was a young lady, and her mother had gotten her and brought it back. And I remember them coming in. This isn't funny. This is more touching, but hugging our manager and thanking her for their concern. I thought to myself, this is what I want to do with my life, right? This is what I want to do. And the reason that mother was not in town, and I mean, things like that are just touching, absolutely touching, to have that happen.
Yeah,
I know it's not funny, but I'm trying to think of something still funny, but it's certainly. I just sat there and went, man, and how do I even how do I get through that emotion that and of course we profusely thanked our manager for going that extra mile. But that's the kind of communities that good operators create.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's a lot of what we say and how we do and how we run our properties, and is that, again, we recognize that these are people's homes, so we want them to have a quality product. We want them to have a nice community. We want them to feel like they're part of something. And, we've had residents, when we've bought an apartment complex in the past, turn in their notice to move out. And then, a month later or, 6 weeks later, they go, well, actually, wait a minute. I think I want to stay. I see that you guys actually care. You're actually doing something to improve the property. So I'm going to stay. I like it here, and you're improving it. So great. I'll stay. So we've seen that a number of times before.
And it's so rewarding, isn't it? And, it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Trevor, where are you today in your real estate journey? As you've gone, like I said, the massive capital started that, the GP scaling up on that. So kind of where are you at, and where's your intentions to go?
Yeah, so as I said, I joined Massive Capital this year. And part of the reason is, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening, it's hard work getting your first few deals. I mean, I worked for 18 months, and actually my first GP deal, the deal didn't happen, and I ended up losing my hard money. I was back in the days of hard money down, and when your first deal, you lose $75,000, that's a lot of money. That's a big wake-up call. All the passive investors that had invested, all their funds were fully returned. But being able to join a team that has deal flow and has variety, and it starts this wheel kind of turning, right? And I personally actually closed the deal, and a broker sent me an offer earlier this year. And we 3 times it came back on the market, and we made offers, and we're finally now raising money and going to close before the end of the year, because we had to wait for the prices to adjust and be worth what it was, right? Obviously there's been this one dropped almost 30%, which was significant. Wow. So that actually was 24% exactly. But, and again, that's a sign of the times, right? And it just had to be able to make sense to buy it in this current environment. Yeah. Absolutely. And so and then the variety of the deals, so having things in different markets and different asset classes. That's the one nice thing about being part of a team. And then what I'm enjoying the most is Massive Capital's focus on educating people. So, we do webinars every Wednesday night. Our ladies group that are part of our team, they do a ladies focused webinar every other Tuesday. We do virtual events where we offer free education. And I really enjoyed that. When we have 100 people show up at a webinar for a topic and 50 of them are new, that's what's exciting to me. What's not exciting is the same 20 people showing up all the time, right? And I shouldn't say it's not exciting, so they've been good friends, but people wanting to learn, right? There's a big desire for people to learn. And so our goal is to provide quality education, because everybody should be educated.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Yeah.
Good deal. Trevor, is there something that you do personally, or perhaps through your business ventures, that you do to give back to help others in some way?
So I haven't started it yet, I've been doing it all through the apartments. So, I do help out if somebody is a good tenant and struggling with rents and do things. But it is definitely a goal of mine to be able to, to sponsor a couple of people that are working hard, but I have not done it yet. So it's on my list. It's something I need to do because I believe in giving back. And again, our communities do give back. We do lots of events and lots of things that we can do, but I need to personally start doing more of that.
Nice. Oh, great idea.
Well, Trace, is there something you've recently implemented in your business that's allowed you to continue to scale?
So it's ramping up the team, right? And once you start closing deals and doing deals, so we've grown now. We're we're actually merging with a development company now, and so total assets under management are getting close to $500 million. And so we've implemented, and I'm not the techie geeky guy, but our techie geeky guys are geeking out. So we've implemented these, really high level asset management tools that are they're analyzing everything, right? Phone calls, how many turns, how many units are coming up, what are we doing, what's our cost? And that's been super exciting to see that happen. I liked asset management till I found out I just wasn't as good at the number crunching as I should be. I'm very good on the human side of it, and to be teamed up with people that are good on the analytics side of it, and then you combine it with the human side of it, super powerful. So I would say that's my next big excitement, that we'll be able to use the combination of the analytical side and the human side, to create better places to live, better performing assets, which of course give better returns to investors. Because at the end of the day, if your group is not investor focused, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it in the long run. You need to be investor focused and making sure that you're doing everything you can to deliver what you promised.
Yep. Trevor, what advice would you share with somebody who's considering making a path change?
Yes. So there's a couple of things I do. Is I always say, don't wait to buy real estate and wait, right? And then of course, Warren Buffett's, if you don't find a way to make money in your sleep, you will work till you die. And then for people that are starting out and looking to transition to the GP role, my advice is very different than all the gurus. I actually stay in your W-2 job so that you can reinvest. A lot of people say, well, I want to earn enough money so I can live off my passive income. And I say, no, keep reinvesting your passive income till you got so much money you don't know what to do with, because of that compounding effect we talked about earlier. So my advice is always very different. Clearly somebody on the team needs to be doing this full time. It's not a part-time job. But for a lot of people that say, oh, I'm young and I want to get out of the rat race and I want to do it, that's fine. But spend the time and the energy to build yourself a solid base, to where you're not having to live off your investments. You're able to reinvest your investments, and that will grow your net worth. And then you'll reach a point where the transition is painless, right? And I wasn't quite at that, because most of my investments, I wasn't worried about cash flow or any of those things, because I had a great paying job. And then when I lost my job, my life changed for a little while and it hurt for a little bit. And so I don't want people to have to do that, right? I want them to be able to reinvest, to be able to grow. Because again, that compounding effect, even if you can hold on for 5 years, that compounding effect of adding a new investment each time and then not having to live off of the cash flow, being able to reinvest it, is powerful.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you never want to be in the position where you have to make investment decisions out of desperation. You want to, like I said, have some cushion and multiple choices on that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then of course we never predict what's going to happen to us, right? So if I had predicted I was going to lose my job, I would have Austin, my house went up in crazy value. You can't change your HELOC once you lose your job. So I had a paid for off house that I did when I got the buyout. I got a small HELOC on it. And then now my house is tripled in value and I can't re-get my HELOC because in theory, I don't have a job. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? So that's the way our financial system works. So if you are going to make that transition, and again, it was always used to go buy an asset and then repay back. It was kind of my funding to grow to the next level. But just do your best when you do switch to make sure you have a solid plan.
Yeah.
And one last advice: real estate is not a get rich quick game. It's a time game. Real estate is a time game. So a lot of people think it's a get rich quick. It is not, but it's a get rich quicker than anything else because of the tax advantages and the compounding effect and all of the other things. But it is not like, Bitcoin was the crazy thing, right? And then how many people lost tons of money and obviously a lot of people made some money, but real estate is not that. Real estate is a time game, and you need to make sure that you're prepared to play the time game.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Trevor,
which is why you should invest sooner than later.
Right.
Even if it's a small amount, just start with something.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
And even young folks, right? If I'd have known what I know now, I'd have been house hacking at 19 when I got my, first house. I would have went and bought a duplex and then a fourplex and then an eightplex. And I know we all like, oh, it's only a fourplex, don't go in the single family game. But at some point that is a very good starting. If you have some young folks living, that's a great place to start, right? Start out with house hacking, fourplex, duplex, fourplex, eightplex. I've got some friends that have started that way, and they actually, they have a lot of apartments now, but they got over 100 duplexes.
Wow.
Yeah, they did quite well. Yeah, all in the Austin market that, tripled in value in the 5 years they owned it. And that's dropped a bit now, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'll build equity and all that, and then allow you to use that cash for future investments, right? To scale that. Yeah. That's great. Well, Trevor, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out and learn more about what you have going on?
So LinkedIn is the best place to reach me. You just got to remember the K on my name. So K Trevor Thompson. Just say you saw me on a podcast or whatever. And then my website is Massive Capital, and I'm just Trever at massive.capital, no .com, kind of strangely. But LinkedIn is always the easiest place to connect with me.
Nice.
Very good. We'll put those in the show notes below. Well, Trevor, I really want to thank you for the conversation today. Enjoyed it. Very interesting story, and wish you continued success.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trevor, for being on. We appreciate it. And we also want to thank our listeners. Please continue to give us a 5-star rating so we can bring you more great content like I showed today with Trevor Thompson. Also want to remind everybody of a couple of important things that Park Capital Partners has going on. First of all, we have the Park Capital Partners 506C fund that is open today to accredited investors. Second, we have the Park Capital Partners Foundation, which is another way that Bill and I give back. That's a 501(c) nonprofit. The way that works quickly is that Bill and I fund the operations of it to make sure that all the money donated goes to do its best work, which is to help others. Second, we donate personally. Third, we donate corporately. And finally, when investors invest with us in one of our projects, we make a donation to honor that investor to a pre-selected list of 15 different charities. So please reach out to Bill and myself. We're happy to have a conversation anytime. We can be reached at parkcapitalpartnersllc.com, parkcapitalpartnersllc.com. And remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.